Good morning, dear friend. The first light of dawn is breaking across the sky, painting the horizon with gentle shades of gold and soft whispers of hope. The air feels untouched, the world is quiet, and in this stillness there is something sacred. Morning carries with it a gift that no other time of day can hold, the gift of a new beginning. Before the noise of life rises, and before worries clamor for our attention, there is a holy pause. It is here, in the silence of dawn, that the heart becomes most ready to hear the voice of God. Perhaps today you woke with the weight of yesterday still pressing on your shoulders. Maybe fear has been your closest companion, whispering doubts about tomorrow. You may be grieving the loss of someone dear or struggling with a broken dream. I think of a woman I once knew, who after losing her job and facing the emptiness of her home, sat by her window before sunrise. Tears rolled down her face as she wondered if her life had any meaning left. In that fragile hour she whispered, "God, if you are real, please show me I am not alone." And in the stillness, as the sun rose, she felt a peace that no words could explain. It did not erase her troubles in a moment, but it gave her the courage to face the day. That moment of reaching out became the beginning of her healing. My friend, perhaps your story is different, but your heart carries a similar ache. Maybe you are wrestling with questions that do not have easy answers. Maybe you feel trapped in patterns of worry that you cannot escape. The truth is that life will always bring moments of uncertainty, yet those very moments can become doorways into God's presence. Morning prayer is not simply a ritual or a set of words. It is an invitation to shift from the weight of despair into the strength of faith, from fierce grip into God's embrace, from confusion into clarity. This is why we begin our journey in prayer. When you pray, you are not speaking into the air. You are entering into a conversation with the one who knows your past, holds your present, and has already secured your future. Prayer is more than asking for help. It is the act of surrendering what you cannot carry, trusting that God is both willing and able to hold it for you. Faith is the key that unlocks this surrender. Faith does not deny reality, but it anchors us in a greater reality, the reality that God is faithful, that His promises are true, and that His love never fails. You see, prayer is not just for the strong. It is for the weary, the broken, the anxious, and the doubtful. It is for every soul that wakes up in need of hope. And this morning, you and I have the opportunity to walk together through a long prayer journey. It will not be rushed. It will not be shallow. Instead, it will carry us step by step through 24 reflections, each like a doorway into a deeper conversation with God. We will begin with honesty about our burdens, move into cries of the heart, remember His faithfulness, surrender our control, and slowly rise into renewed strength, guidance, healing, and peace. By the end, my prayer is that your heart will not only feel lighter, but also anchored in unshakable trust. So, dear friend, wherever you are right now, whether in a quiet room, a crowded city, or beside a hospital bed, let this morning be different. Let this sunrise mark not just another day, but the beginning of a sacred dialogue. Open your heart to listen. to release and to receive. As we move into this prayer together, I invite you to step away from fear and into faith, to lay down your burdens and discover the peace that only God can give. Now, let us prepare our hearts. The morning is here. The silence is holy. The invitation is before you. Will you walk with me into this conversation with the Almighty? Dear Heavenly Father, the morning light has come again, and yet my heart feels heavy, as if the night never ended. I wake with thoughts that press against me like shadows refusing to lift. Worries crowd my mind before my eyes are fully open. The silence of dawn does not always feel peaceful to me. Sometimes it feels like the weight of yesterday lingering, whispering questions about tomorrow. I know you see this, for nothing is hidden from you, not even the quiet trembling of my soul as I begin this day. I come to you without masks, without strength of my own, only with the burdens that seem too much to carry. I confess that fear greets me quickly. Thoughts of failure, of uncertainty, of what may or may not come, circle me like restless winds. I want to walk into this day with courage, but instead I find myself holding on to anxious thoughts, replaying what has been lost, imagining what could go wrong. It feels like carrying a backpack filled with stones, each one named with my hidden worries, each one pressing me down so that every step is slower. I am tired, Lord, tired of pretending I am strong enough to carry it all. I admit to you that I am not. This morning, as the sky brightens and the first rays touch the earth, I long for that same light to reach into me. I long for the shadows to lift. I long for peace that is deeper than circumstances, for a calm that no storm can steal. I am here to lay down what I cannot control. I whisper to you the fears I have not spoken to anyone else. You know the memories that still ache, the regrets that still weigh me down, the unanswered questions that stir in my chest. I place them in front of you now. I ask you to take this heart of mine, fragile and restless, and steady it with your presence. Help me not to hide my weakness, but to bring it honestly before you. I believe that you are greater than my fear, though sometimes I forget. I believe that you are stronger than my burdens, though sometimes I cling to them as if I were alone. Teach me to unclench my hands, to open them and release what I was never meant to hold. Let this act of release be the first breath of freedom in my morning. Dear Father, I think of how the psalmist wrote that those who trust in you are like mountains that cannot be moved. Yet right now I feel like shifting sand, blown by every anxious thought. I want to be steady, and I know I cannot steady myself. So I look to you. I look beyond what my eyes see and what my mind fears. And I look to the one who does not change. The morning light rises faithfully because you set it in place. Let that same faithfulness rise within me. I remember how you have carried me before, how even in seasons I thought would break me, I found strength to take another step. That strength did not come from me. It came from you. Remind me again, in the quiet of this dawn, that the same God who kept me then will keep me now. Let memory become the anchor of my soul when emotions threaten to sweep me away. This morning I did not ask for every problem to vanish, but I ask for courage to face what comes. I do not ask for every burden to be solved at once, but I ask for the wisdom to place them in your hands, one by one. I do not ask to escape the day ahead, but I ask to walk into it with peace that cannot be shaken. So here I am. Father, awake but wary, hopeful yet trembling. I speak to you as a child speaks to a parent, not with perfect words but with honest need. Take my need and meet it with your love. Take my fear and cover it with your peace. Take my weakness and fill it with your strength. May this morning become the turning of my heart toward you, the first step on a journey of trust that will grow with every breath. I surrender the weight I cannot carry. I confess the fear I cannot silence. And I choose, in this moment, to turn my eyes to you. Father, as I rise from the words I poured out before, I feel the stirring of another need within me, deeper than quiet surrender, more raw than silent reflection. It is the cry of my heart. The weight I confessed still presses, and the fears I whispered still circle. So I lift my voice louder. I will not hide my trembling soul from you. If the first step was to admit my weakness, the next is to bring it before you with a cry that cannot be silenced. Father, I cry because I cannot contain the ache within me. My chest feels heavy, my thoughts overflow, and my spirit groans with longing for relief. I do not wish to present myself polished or composed. I come as I am, vulnerable and broken, because only you can carry what is too heavy for me. This morning I think of Hannah, whose lips moved in prayer so deep that others mistook her for lost in madness. She was not mad. She was desperate. I understand her tears, her trembling, her inability to shape neat sentences. I know what it feels like to pray from a place where words falter and sighs become the only language left. So I cry, Father, not with carefully chosen speech, but with the raw honesty of a child, aching to be heard. My cry is my faith. For even in desperation I turn it toward you and not away. My cry is my trust, because I know you are not offended by my weakness, nor deaf to my pleas. Father, I lift before you the anguish I cannot name, the pain of disappointments that cut deeper than I expected, the silent fears that wake me in the night, the loss of things I thought would remain. You know each wound, you count each tear, you see each shadow that lingers. I cry to you because no one else can touch the hidden places. Friends may listen, but only you can heal. Family may care, but only you can restore. My cry rises because I believe you bend down to hear. Even if my voice shakes, even if my words stumble, you receive them as precious. I confess that sometimes I feel abandoned. I confess that doubt knocks on the door of my faith, whispering that perhaps you are far away. Yet even in that, I cry out, because silence is heavier than hope. My cry is proof that I still believe, even when belief feels small. I remember the psalmist who wrote, "Out of the depths I cry to you." O Lord, that is where I find myself, in the depths, yet lifting my voice upward. If my heart breaks, let it break open toward you. If my tears fall, let them water the ground of prayer. If my soul trembles, let it tremble in your presence. Father, my cry is not only of sorrow, but also of longing. I long for your nearness. I long for your comfort. I long for the assurance that I am not forgotten. I cry for peace that goes beyond understanding, for strength that does not come from me, for clarity where confusion has clouded my way. I cry because I know there is more than what my eyes see, more than what my fears predict. I cry because you are the God who answers. Maybe not in the way I expect, maybe not in the timing I demand, but always in love, always in wisdom, always with power. In this morning stillness, I let my cry be heard without shame. Let it rise like incense. Let it pierce the heavens. Let it touch your heart. I do not fear that you will turn away. I believe you welcome the cry of your children, that you hold every groan in the palm of your hand. You are the Father who gathers every fragment, the shepherd who carries every wounded lamb. So I cry, and in my cry there is hope. In my tears there is trust. In my breaking there is the beginning of healing. For if I did not believe you here, I would not cry at all. But because I know you are near, I cannot remain silent. So hear me, Father, as the dawn breaks further and the world awakens. Hear not just my words, but the heartbeat beneath them. Hear the soul that yearns, the spirit that pleads, the child that reaches. My cry is my offering this morning, fragile yet sincere, trembling yet real. And I trust that in your mercy, you will not only hear but respond. Father, as my cry has risen before you, and my tears have spoken what words could not, I feel the gentle nudge within me to look back. For though my heart aches and my voice trembles, I cannot forget the times you have carried me before. It is in memory that I find a quiet strength, in remembrance that I discover fresh courage. Father, I turn my eyes from the heaviness of this present moment and recall the faithfulness that has marked my journey. I remember seasons when I thought the night would never end, yet morning came because you sustained me. I remember valleys where shadows seemed too dark, yet I found myself walking through, not alone but upheld by your unseen hand. I remember the quiet provisions, the unexpected doors that opened, the whispered encouragements that came just when I thought I could not take another step. These were not accidents. They were your mercies, written into the story of my life, like footprints that trace back to your goodness. Father, I confess that in my pain I sometimes forget. Fear blinds me to memory, sorrow dulls the clarity of the past, and worry convinces me that what once was may never be again. But today, in the early light, I choose to recall. I choose to gather the stones of remembrance, just as your people once did when you parted the waters and carried them safely through. Each stone was a testimony, each testimony a reminder, each reminder a declaration that you are the God who saves. I, too, will gather the stones of my life and stack them in my heart, so that when doubt whispers, I can point what you have already done. I think of how many times I whispered a prayer in desperation and found an answer I could not explain. I think of the moments when I was weak, and somehow strength rose like a hidden spring within me. I think of the dangers I escaped, not by my wisdom, but by your protection. I think of the comfort that met me in grief, the peace that surprised me in storms, the joy that broke through after sorrow. These memories are not distant tales. They are living testimonies that you are who you say you are. Father, I do not want to live as if I have forgotten. I do not want each new trial to erase the memory of yesterday's deliverance. Teach me to carry remembrance like a shield, to let gratitude rise even in the midst of pain. For when I remember, my fear loses its grip. When I remember, my faith breathes again. When I remember, my heart learns to trust not in what I see, but in who you have proven yourself to be. I recall how you fed thousands with what seemed too little, how you calmed storms with a single word, how you lifted the broken and restored the forgotten. These are not stories for someone else's life alone. They are reminders that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever. If you parted seas once, you can make a way again. If you multiplied oil for the widow once, you can provide for me in my lack. If you turned sorrow into joy for Hannah, you can do the same for every longing heart. Memory is not just comfort, it is prophecy. For what you have done reveals what you will do again in your perfect time. Father, I bring to mind the promises that steadied me in past seasons. I remember the verse that whispered peace when my mind was restless, the song that lifted me when tears fell without end, the quiet assurance that carried me through. Let these recollections become my anchor today. Let them remind me that you are near, even when feelings waver. Let them assure me that you do not fail, even when circumstances seem to say otherwise. So I choose to pause in this morning prayer, not only to cry as I did before, but to remember. I remember that you are faithful. I remember that you are good. I remember that no moment of my life has been untouched by your hand. Even the moments I thought were empty were filled with unseen grace. Even the seasons I thought were wasted were woven into a greater story. And so, Father, I let memory rise like a light in my darkness, like a song in my silence, like a shield in my trembling. Father, I will not let forgetfulness rob me of peace. I will not let sorrow erase the truth of who you have been. I will rehearse your faithfulness until my soul believes again, until my cry turns to confidence, until my weakness is wrapped in hope. For the God of yesterday is the God of today, and the God of today will be the God of tomorrow. I rest in that truth as I remember you now. Father, as I hold close the memories of your faithfulness, I realize that remembering alone is not enough. My heart is stirred by the past, but today requires a decision. I sense you calling me to take the next step, to open my hands and release what I have clung to so tightly. Father, I confess that letting go does not come easily. Control feels safe. Even when it exhausts me, I hold on to plans, to fears, to outcomes I think I must manage, and in doing so I only tighten the chains that bind me. Yet as I remember how you have sustained me before, I know the time has come to choose surrender. I picture myself standing at a crossroads where one path is marked by worry and the other by trust. Worry tempts me with the illusion that if I think long enough, if I plan carefully enough, I can secure what I need, but that path always leaves me weary and empty. Trust, on the other hand, calls me to unclench my fists, to admit that I am not in control, and to place the weight in your hands. It feels risky. Father, I know deep down it is the only way to peace. So here in this quiet morning, I speak out the choice of my heart. I will release the burdens I was never meant to carry. I will let go of the outcomes I cannot dictate. I will surrender the fears that have whispered louder than your promises. I choose trust, not because it is easy, but because it is true. You have never failed me, and you will not fail me now. Father, I think of the child who hands over a broken toy to a parent, not knowing how it will be repaired, but trusting that love will find a way. That is what I want to be like with you. I want to bring what is cracked, what is heavy, what is beyond my strength, and place it into hands that are stronger than mine. My surrender is not laziness, it is faith. My letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. For when I give what I cannot control into your keeping, I make room for your power to work freely. I remember the words of Scripture that urge me to cast all my cares on you, because you care for me, not some cares, not only the heaviest cares, but all. Father, I bring them one by one. The fear of what tomorrow may hold, I release it. The guilt of what yesterday still whispers, I release it. The pressure to hold everything together, I release it. The need to understand what I cannot, I release it. I pour out my clenched worries into your open hands, believing that you will not drop them, believing that you will carry them far better than I ever could. Father, I admit that part of me fears letting go because it feels like losing control. But deep down, I know control was never mine to begin with. Every breath I take is a gift from you. Every moment of my life is sustained by you. I cannot add a single heartbeat by worrying, nor can I secure my future by holding on tighter. My strength is too small, but yours is without end. My understanding is limited, but yours is infinite. So I choose to release, not because I have no responsibilities, but because I know my responsibilities are never carried alone. In this release, I feel both fragile and free. Fragile, because it means admitting my dependence. Free, because dependence on you is not bondage, but life. Father, teach me the rhythm of trust. Teach me to open my hands each morning, each hour if needed, so that fear does not settle in again. Teach me to live with hands lifted rather than fists clenched, with a heart surrendered rather than a heart weighed down. This morning, as I release, I imagine the heaviness falling away like stones laid down at your feet. I imagine my shoulders lifted, my spirit lightened, my steps becoming steady. The road ahead may not be smooth, but I will walk it differently. Not bent under the illusion of control, but upright in the strength of surrender. Let this release be not just a moment, but a daily practice, shaping my heart into one that trusts easily and holds lightly. Father, I thank you that surrender does not end with loss. It opens the way for peace. It makes space for joy. It clears the path for your direction. And so, in this chapter of my prayer, I choose to let go. I choose to give you what I cannot bear. I choose to believe that you hold me and all that concerns me. This choice is not a feeling, but a decision. Not a fleeting act, but a new way of living. I trust you with what I release, and I trust that what I release will never be wasted in your hands. Father, now that I have placed in your hands all I could no longer carry, a new stillness begins to settle over me. It is not empty. It is not hollow. It feels like a quiet space being cleared inside me, as if trust has begun sweeping through the rooms of my soul. gently asking fear to leave. There is a silence here that I have not known for some time. Not the silence of absence, but of presence. Not the silence of despair, but of peace beginning take its rightful place. Father, the letting go was not easy. My hands trembled. My thoughts resisted, but I chose to release. And now, in the space that release has created, I do not rush to fill the void with noise. I wait. I breathe. I listen. This quiet, this pause, is where trust begins to bloom. Not in the answers, not in the explanations, but in the willingness to be still and believe that you are near. I do not need to prove anything in this moment. I do not need to perform. I simply need to remain open, aware, and willing to let this silence speak deeper than my own words ever could. You are not a distant God who only hears loud voices or dramatic prayers. You are the God who meets me in stillness, who draws near when all I can offer is breath. Sometimes I imagine you sitting with me here, not demanding, not correcting, just being present, patient, and full of quiet strength. I lean into that image now. Father, I lean into the truth that trust does not need to shout. It can rest, it can wait, it can breathe slowly without fear of being forgotten. I remember how the prophet Elijah looked for you in the wind, in the earthquake, in the fire, but you came in a whisper. That moment speaks to me now. I am not waiting for thunder. I am listening for the whisper. And in this silence, I am beginning to hear what anxiety always drowned out: your calm voice, your quiet reassurances, your gentle presence speaking peace into places that have long been noisy with fear. Father, this stillness teaches me that trust is not frantic, it is not desperate, it is not loud. Trust is unhurried. It does not demand to be proven. It simply rests in what is true. You are God. You are good. You are here. These truths do not need to compete for attention. They simply are. They do not ask me to understand everything. They ask me to believe in something greater than understanding. They ask me to be still. So I let this silence be my offering, not because I have nothing to say, because I am learning that saying less can sometimes mean trusting more. I do not want my prayers to become noise. I want them to become still waters where I can meet you face to face, heart to heart. I want to dwell in the pause, to find you not only in the words I speak, but in the spaces between them. Let this be the kind of prayer that listens more than it pleads. I begin to understand now why stillness is so difficult. It confronts the part of me that always wants to solve, to analyze, to anticipate. But this morning, I choose another way. I choose to trust that your hand is already at work. Even if I do not see it, I choose to trust that silence is not wasted time, but sacred ground. In this stillness, you remind me that I am not forgotten. I am not alone. I am not lost. I am simply being held. And that is enough. Let the silence teach me. Father, let it show me how to listen, not just for your voice, but for your heart. Let it strip away the clutter of my thoughts until I can feel the gentle rhythm of grace. Let it deepen my trust until I no longer fear the quiet, but welcome it like a friend. Let it become the space where faith breathes and peace grows. Father, I know now that this silence is not the absence of you. It is the fullness of you coming without fanfare. It is the quiet strength of a God who does not need to shout to be heard. It is the still presence of the one who sits beside me without rushing. I welcome that presence now. I welcome this sacred pause. I welcome this moment where trust becomes less about doing and more about being, less about striving and more about resting. I do not know what the rest of this day will hold. I do not know what answers will come or what questions will remain, but in this silence, I am choosing to believe that you are already in my future, just as you are here in my present. I am choosing to trust that the path ahead will unfold, not because I force it open, but because you lead me one quiet step at a time. So I remain here a little longer, in this soft hush where anxiety has no place, and fear no voice. I let trust take root in silence. I let peace grow without explanation. I let my soul be still, not because everything is certain, but because I know you are. That is enough for now. That is enough for this morning. Father, as I sit with you in this silence that trust has created, I begin to sense something rising within me. It is not loud. It does not come with force, but it is steady, like a quiet current beneath still waters. It is strength, a kind I have not known through my striving, a kind that has nothing to do with effort or willpower. This strength feels different because it is born from admitting weakness, not hiding it. And in this space where I have let go and fallen silent, I am beginning to realize that you meet me most deeply when I stop trying to be strong on my own. Father, I have spent so much of my life believing that strength means holding it all together. I have pushed through pain, put on brave faces, and forced myself to keep going even when I was crumbling inside. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought that resilience meant never admitting I was weak. But now, in this sacred quiet, I hear you whispering something entirely different. You are not looking for my perfection. You are not asking me to be unshaken. You are inviting me to let you be strong for me. The longer I sit with this truth, the more it undoes me, because I see how much I have resisted weakness, how afraid I have been to look broken, even before you. And yet you have never turned away from the places in me that feel fragile. You have never shamed me for my limitations. You wait patiently for me to admit them, not so you can condemn me, but so you can enter in. That is where true strength begins, not in denying weakness, but in surrendering it into your care. I think of how Paul wrote about his thorn, how he pleaded for it to be taken away, and how you answered not with removal, but with a deeper gift. My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. I understand this more now than ever. You are not always removing the struggle. Sometimes you are revealing your power in the middle of it. I used to pray for you to take the weight away. Now I find myself asking you to carry me through it. That prayer feels more honest. It feels more like faith. Father, help me to stop measuring strength by how much I can endure without breaking. Teach me to measure it by how quickly I turn to you when I reach the end of myself. Let my weakness no longer be something I hide, but something I bring to you openly, not with shame, but with hope, because I know now that when I am at my lowest, you are not far off. You draw near to the brokenhearted. You lift those who are bowed down. You do not despise a heart that comes to you in need. There is something holy about weakness when it is surrendered. It becomes the place where miracles happen, where burdens are lifted, where courage begins again. I am learning to see weakness not as failure, but as the doorway to grace. And that grace is what gives me the strength to rise, not with pride, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence that I am held, known, and carried. Father, when the world tells me to push harder, you tell me to rest deeper. When fear says I am not enough, you remind me that your power is made perfect when I stop trying to be. Let that truth live in me today. Let it shape the way I walk, the way I speak, the way I respond. Let it steady my spirit when the day grows long. Let it remind me that I do not need to prove anything. I simply need to remain connected to you. If today brings challenges I feel unprepared for, let me not panic. Let me remember that being unprepared is not the same as being unprotected. You are already there. You are already making a way. And if all I can do is lean on you with trembling faith, then I will have done enough. For faith is not about how strong I feel. It is about where I place my trust, and I place it fully in you. Father, let your strength rise within me not as noise, but as quiet resolve. Let it show up in the way I choose peace over panic, patience over pressure, gentleness over striving. Let it be seen in my ability to stay present, to love well, to keep going even when I feel small. Let my weakness become the canvas where your glory is revealed, not because I am impressive, but because you are good. I am not ashamed to say I need you. I am not afraid to admit I cannot do this on my own. That confession is not defeat. It is the beginning of real power. I lift my eyes, not to my own strength, but to the hills, where my help comes from. My help comes from you, the maker of heaven and earth. That truth anchors me today. So here I am, still in your presence, still wrapped in trust, still learning to live differently. My hands are no longer gripping control. My heart is no longer spinning with fear. My soul is no longer afraid of weakness. I am learning to see it as the doorway to deeper strength. Your strength, and that is more than enough. Father, as I continue to dwell in the quiet strength that comes from embracing my weakness, I begin to see how deeply patience is woven into the fabric of trust. It is one thing to surrender control for a moment, another to remain surrendered when nothing seems to change. Waiting has never been easy for me, but this morning, in the stillness of your presence, I begin to understand that patience is not passive. It is not the absence of action, but the presence of steady faith that refuses to rush ahead of you. Father, I confess that I often want answers quickly. I want resolution without delay. I want the doors to open on my timing, not yours. And when they do not, frustration creeps in. Doubt follows closely. I question whether you heard me, whether I did something wrong, whether perhaps the answer is no. But deep inside, a quiet voice reminds me that delay is not denial. Silence is not abandonment. And waiting is not weakness when my heart remains anchored in you. You are not in a hurry, Father, and that challenges the pace of my soul. You move with perfect wisdom. Never early, never late. Your timing is not measured by my urgency, but by your understanding. What feels slow to me may be the preparation of something deeper, stronger, more lasting. Teach me to see time through your eyes. Teach me to trust the unfolding even when I cannot trace the pattern. I think of how farmers wait for the rain, how seeds rest in darkness before sprouting life, how even the sun rises not all at once, but inch by inch over the horizon. Creation itself whispers the truth that growth takes time. So why do I expect my heart to be any different? You are cultivating something within me, even in the waiting, perhaps especially in the waiting. The soil of delay may be the place where resilience is born. Father, patience does not mean pretending the H is not real. It means choosing to endure it with grace. It means holding my hope with steady hands, even when they feel tired. It means staying open, staying soft, staying faithful while I wait. Let this waiting refine me, not harden me. Let it deepen my roots, not cause me to wither. Let it build within me the kind of character that can carry the blessings I have not yet seen. You know how I struggle with uncertainty. You know how quickly my thoughts can race ahead, imagining what might go wrong. But you are inviting me to stay here, in today, to trust that tomorrow is not mine to manage, but yours to reveal. Patience is not just a virtue, it is a shield. It guards me from anxiety. It protects me from rushing into decisions not shaped by your hand. Let that shield surround me now. When I feel tempted to make something happen in my own strength, remind me that waiting is not doing nothing. It is doing the hard, brave work of trusting you. His worship in its purest form, offering not only my needs, but also my timeline, my expectations, my desired outcomes. It is saying, I believe you are good, even when I do not yet see the goodness unfold. Father, give me the kind of patience that does not wear thin, but wears deep. Let it be seen in how I speak to others, in how I speak to myself, in how I hold my emotions. Let it be the quiet power beneath my daily steps. Let it be what steadies me when the answers are slow, what grounds me when the waiting stretches longer than I hoped. Let it become part of who I am. Not just something I practice occasionally, but something that defines how I live. I think of Abraham, who waited years for a promise he could not see fulfilled. I think of Joseph, whose dreams were delayed by prison and betrayal. I think of Mary, who carried a miracle in silence before anyone believed. I think of Jesus, who waited in a garden before the cross, surrendering not just his life, but his timing to your will. If they could wait, held by you, so can I. Let their stories remind me that every season of waiting has a purpose, and you are never absent in it. Father, while I wait, help me not to lose heart. Help me to remember that faith is not proven when life is easy, but when the answer has not yet come, and I still believe. Let me rise each morning with new mercy and renewed trust. Let me meet delay not with dread, but with devotion. Let patience be the quiet song I hum in the background of every moment. a steady rhythm that keeps my soul aligned with yours. If I grow tired, whisper again that you are working. If I grow restless, place peace in my chest like a calming breeze. If I grow doubtful, remind me of all the times I waited before and how you came through in ways I never expected. And if I forget what patience can do, take me back to this moment, to this prayer, to this stillness that teaches me how to endure with grace. So today, I choose patience not as weakness, but as strength. I choose it not because I enjoy waiting, but because I trust the one I am waiting on. And that trust is enough to keep me steady, to keep me hopeful, to keep me here watching, listening, believing, one moment at a time. Father, as I rest in the quiet strength that patience brings, I feel something else stirring within me. It is not just endurance. It is not only the ability to wait. It is a fire gentle, but real. This fire is faith, and it begins to rise as I give it space. I can feel it warming the places where fear once settled. I can sense it pushing back against the shadows that used to feel so large. And I know, Father, that this fire is not mine alone. It is the spark you placed within me long before I knew how deeply I would need it. Faith is not loud, but it is powerful. It does not always come with bold declarations, but it holds its ground in quiet defiance against fear. As I sit with you in the stillness of trust and the strength of surrender, I choose to let this faith rise. I choose to believe even when my surroundings offer little reassurance. I choose to hope even when nothing has changed yet. I choose to stand, not because I feel brave, but because you are my foundation. Father, I know what fear feels like. I know how quickly it enters, how silently it wraps itself around the mind, whispering lies and stirring panic. It comes disguised as logic, disguised as caution, disguised as protection. But at its core, fear tries to convince me that I am alone, that you have forgotten, the worst is coming and I am not ready. Today, I refuse to listen. I choose another voice. I choose the voice of faith that says, you are with me, you are for me, and I do not need to fear what tomorrow brings. Faith is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the presence of trust despite it. It is the decision to step forward when the outcome is unclear, because I believe that even in the unknown, you are already there. Faith is the fire that keeps burning when the night is long. It is what kept Daniel standing in the lion's den. What gave Esther the courage to speak? What allowed Peter to walk on water? It is the same fire you have placed in me. I may not feel as bold as they did, but the same God who strengthened them is strengthening me now. Father, help me to recognize fear when it comes, not to welcome it, not to entertain it, but to meet it with faith. Let faith become my shield, not just in theory, but in practice. When fear knocks, let my first response be to speak truth. When doubt creeps in, let me answer it with what you have already said. When the path ahead looks uncertain, let my heart stay grounded in what I know of you, your goodness, your promises, your love that does not change. I ask you to ignite within me a faith that is steady in storms, faithful in waiting, and fierce in battle. Not a faith that hides from hard things, but one that faces them with eyes fixed on you. Let it be a flame that grows, not from emotional highs, but from daily decisions. A flame that learns to trust when the feelings fade, that keeps burning even when the winds of life try to blow it out. Let this fire be my response to fear, not denial. Not escape, but the courage to believe anyway. Father, let this faith shape my thoughts. Let it guide my words. Let it influence every action I take today. Not because I want to impress you, but because I want to walk in step with you. I want fear to lose its voice in my life. I want faith to become my language. Let it speak through me when I encourage someone else. Let it be heard when I speak to myself in moments of weakness. Let it rise when I feel surrounded. Let it remain even when the outcome is unknown. You have not given me a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I claim that truth now. Let fear lose its grip on my imagination, on my emotions, on my choices. Let it no longer dictate the way I move through the world. Instead, let faith light the way, one step at a time. Let me walk into this day not timidly, but with quiet courage, knowing that I am not alone. Father, when fear comes disguised in familiar patterns, when it shows up as hesitation, as self-doubt, as overthinking, help me to pause and remember who I belong to. Help me to speak out faith, even if my voice shakes. Help me to act in faith, even if my knees tremble. Because I know that faith is not always loud. Sometimes it is as simple as showing up, as steady as a whisper, as powerful as a flame that refuses to go out. Let faith be the fire that keeps me moving forward. Let it burn away the lies I have believed. Let it light the path when everything else seems dark. Let it warm the cold places in me where fear once lived. Let it be a reminder that I was never called to walk alone, never asked to carry burdens in my own strength. You are with me, and that truth fuels the fire. So here I am again, Father, still in your presence, still choosing to believe. I will not let fear speak louder than your voice. I will not let it decide who I become. I choose faith not because I always feel strong, but because I know you are. And that is enough to keep the fire burning. Heavenly Father, after choosing faith over fear, I find myself thinking not just about what faith does within me, but about who it brings me closer to. Because faith is not just a concept, it is a connection. It leads me to you, and when storms rise around me, it is not the strength of my belief that steadies me, but the truth of your presence. Faith quiets the noise so I can remember that you are near, even in the fiercest winds. Father, you know I have faced storms. Some came suddenly, without warning, and others built slowly over time. Some were outside of me, circumstances I could not control. Others raged within me, conflict, fear, grief, shame. In every case, my instinct was to survive, to fight, to fix. But as I sit with you now, I realize that I never made it through because I was strong. I made it through because you were with me. I am still here, still breathing, still hoping, because your presence never left, even when I could not feel it. There is something sacred about a storm when you are in the boat with me. The winds may roar, the waves may rise, But if you are here, I do not have to be afraid. Like the disciples who woke you in panic, I, too, have shouted through my fear. And like them, I have often forgotten who was beside me. But you never rebuke them for waking you. You calmed the storm and then reminded them of faith. I hold on to that truth now, not just that you have power, but that you stay close. Sometimes I wonder why you allow the storm to come at all. Why not keep the skies clear, the waters still? But I think I am beginning to understand. It is in the storm that I discover who you really are, not just the God of calm mornings, but the God of crashing waves and sleepless nights. You do not abandon me to the storm. You enter it with me. You speak peace into it. And more than that, you use it to reveal things I would not see otherwise. Father, in the storm I see how quickly I reach for things that cannot hold me. I see the limits of my own strength. I see the difference between surface faith and anchored faith. And while I do not enjoy the storms, I no longer see them as punishment. I see them as invitations. They invite me to lean closer, to listen deeper, to depend on you in ways I forget when everything feels safe. This morning, I do not ask for you to take away every storm. I ask for awareness of your presence within it. I ask for the kind of clarity that lets me feel your nearness. Even when the wind is loud, I ask for a heart that does not panic at every wave, but remembers that the one who commands the sea is seated beside me. I ask for the kind of faith that rests, not because the storm is over, but because I know you are here. Let that awareness change the way I face today. Let it shape my thoughts when stress builds and peace feels far away. Let it influence my choices when I feel overwhelmed. Let it ground me when my mind begins to spin with what-ifs. Let your presence be my refuge, not just a distant hope, but a real and steady shelter. Father, if I begin to sink, remind me of Peter. He walked toward you on the water, not because he understood how, but because he trusted who called him. And even when his fear pulled him under, your hand was already reaching for his. You did not let him drown. You will not let me drown. That image steadies me now, your hand, strong and sure, reaching into whatever waters rise around me. Let me remember that storms do not define me. Your presence does. I am not the storm I survived. I am the soul you stayed with. I am not the chaos that tried to undo me. I am the one you calmed. I am not the fear that shook me. I am the one you held through it all. These truths are not just comforting, they are transforming. They allow me to breathe deeper, to think clearer, to live differently. And so today, no matter what comes, I carry this with me. You are with me in the storm, not watching from a distance, not waiting until it passes. With me in the middle of it, that truth becomes the anchor I grip when the wind howls. That truth becomes the light I follow when the sky turns dark. That truth becomes the peace that holds when nothing else makes sense. Father, you are not just the God who calms storms. You are the God who joins me in them. That changes everything. I do not need to fear what lies ahead. I do not need to shrink from uncertain days. I do not need to wait for silence before I find peace. Because peace is not the absence of a storm. It is the certainty of your presence in it. And that is the promise I carry now. Father, even as I hold tightly to the peace of your presence in the storm, I know there is still something within me that often lingers long after the winds have quieted. It is worry. It moves differently than fear. It does not shout like panic or crash like waves. It creeps in slowly, settles in silently, and tries to become part of my every thought. Sometimes I do not even notice how much space it takes until I try to breathe freely and find that I cannot. So now, in this still morning, I come to you asking for something deeper, not just to escape the storm, but to be free from the chains that worry leaves behind. Father, I confess that worry has often felt like a companion. Familiar, constant, almost comforting in a strange way, because it gives me something to do. I have worried about people I love, about things I cannot fix, about futures I cannot see. I have carried questions without answers, and scenarios that may never happen, and allowed them to circle my mind like chains around my soul. And though I know you are trustworthy, though I know you are near, still I find myself drifting back into that restless cycle of rehearsing what might go wrong. But this morning, I want something better. I want to be free, not just momentarily relieved, but truly free. I want to think differently. I want to live lighter. I want to walk through this day without dragging behind me the weight of everything that might happen. I want to wake up and remember not what I fear, but who you are. You did not create me to be held captive by endless what-ifs. You did not form my heart to be tangled in anxiety. You made me for joy, for trust, for peace that passes understanding. I want to live in that kind of freedom. Father, I bring to you the worries I have not spoken aloud, the ones that hide behind my business, the ones I push aside but never release. You know them already, yet I need to name them to you. I worry about things breaking that once felt stable. I worry about being misunderstood. I worry that what I give may not be enough. I worry that I will miss something important or fail in ways I cannot fix. These are not easy things to admit, but I bring them all to you now. I lay them down, one by one, not because I am giving up, but because I am giving them over. There is a difference. Giving up would be despair. Giving them to you is faith. It is the belief that your hands are steadier than mine, your sight clearer than mine, your timing better than mine. And if I truly believe that, then I must stop gripping these concerns so tightly. I ask you now to break the cycle in my mind that loops the same anxious thoughts again and again. Replace that loop with truth. When I start to spiral, remind me that I have a choice to return to worry or to rest in you. Train my heart to lean on your promises more than my predictions. Teach me to pause when anxiety rises, to breathe deeply and remember that nothing surprises you, nothing overwhelms you, and nothing is outside of your reach. Father, let this freedom be more than just internal. Let it shape how I speak to others. Let it guide how I respond to challenges. Let it change the posture of my soul from clenched and guarded to open and trusting. Let the peace you offer me become visible in how I carry myself today. And when others ask how I remain calm, let my answer be clear. It is not because I have fewer problems, but because I have given them to a greater God. I think of the words Jesus spoke about the lilies and the birds. They do not worry, yet you care for them. How much more do you care for me? Let me hold that truth close. Let it be what interrupts the next wave of anxiety before it can take root. Let it be what quiets the loud thoughts and soothes the tense places within me. Father, I do not expect that worry will vanish forever, but I do believe it no longer has to rule me. I may feel its pull, but I am not its prisoner. I belong to you, not to fear. I serve truth, not anxiety. And even if the concerns return tomorrow, I will return to you again, not to wrestle, but to release, not to carry alone, but to lay them down again and again until freedom becomes my habit and not just a moment. So now, with this breath, I choose freedom. I choose to unclench the fists of my thoughts. I choose to trade the chains of worry for the lightness of trust. I may not have every answer, but I have you. And in this stillness, in this sacred space, I remember once more that you are more than enough. Father, as I release my worries into your hands and begin to feel the weight lifting, I find myself wondering something deeper. What happens in the space left behind? What fills the room that anxiety once occupied? I sit with that question for a moment, and I hear a quiet answer rising in my heart. It is faith again, but now shaped into expectancy. Not just hope that carries me through, but belief that what I have, even if it seems small, can be enough when placed in your hands. I bring that thought to you now with open palms and a willing spirit, because I know, Father, that you are the God who multiplies what I surrender. There have been so many times when I have looked at my life and felt that I did not have enough, not enough time, not enough strength, not enough resources, not enough clarity. And yet, I kept trying to stretch what little I had, hoping it would somehow reach. I have stood in front of needs that seemed too great and looked down at what I held, convinced it would never be sufficient. But I am beginning to realize something you have been trying to show me all along. It is not about what I hold, but what I am willing to place in your hands. I remember the story of the widow and her small jar of oil. It was not much. It probably did not seem like anything remarkable. But when she brought it in faith and followed the instruction you gave through your prophet, that oil kept flowing. It filled every empty vessel she could gather. It did not run dry until she ran out of room to receive it. That miracle was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet and steady, just like your provision in my life. I carry that picture now. Father, the oil flowing, more than enough, as long as I bring the jars of my faith and obedience to you. Sometimes I focus too much on what I lack. I compare. I measure. I conclude that my offering is too small. But you are reminding me this morning that you never asked for abundance. You asked for availability. You never demanded perfection. Only surrender. You never told me to multiply it myself. You simply asked me to bring it to you, and when I do, something holy happens. The little becomes enough. The enough becomes more, and the more becomes testimony. Father, I place in front of you what feels small to me. My energy, my ideas, my efforts, my kindness, my willingness, my prayers that feel too simple, my gifts that feel unfinished. I bring them not with shame, but with expectancy, trusting that you can take even these and breathe life into them. You can stretch what I offer and make it matter in ways I will never fully understand. I do not have to see the whole picture. I just have to pour out what I have, believing that you will do the rest. Let this truth settle in my soul today, that my lack is not a limitation when it meets your grace, that my surrender creates room for miracles, that obedience is the vessel you use to fill every space where need once lived. Let me not hold back because I think it is too little. Let me bring it anyway. Let me gather the jars, open my hands, and trust that you will do what only you can do. Father, show me where to pour today, not just in grand moments, but in quiet ones. Let me see the empty vessels around me, hearts that need encouragement, lives that need love, places where hope is running low. And instead of saying I have nothing to give, let me pour, even if it is only a few drops of kindness, a small word of truth, a simple act of care. Let me believe that you can take it and multiply it. Let me live today as if the oil is already flowing. And if I grow tired or discouraged, remind me again that it is not the size of what I give, but the spirit in which I give it. Let me return to the source, over and over, knowing that you do not run dry. That every time I come to you, every time I choose obedience over insecurity, every time I give what I have instead of hiding it, you honor that, you bless it, you use it. Father, I do not want to waste time comparing my offering to someone else. I do not want to measure my value by the standards of this world. I want to live like the widow, faithful, trusting, open. I want to carry my jar and believe that as long as I keep pouring, you will keep providing. Let that be my rhythm today. Let that be my song. Not striving, not scarcity, but steady trust in your ability to do more than I can ask or imagine. So I begin this day with faith that multiplies. I step into the moments ahead believing that what you have placed in me is enough when I give it back to you. I do not need to see how it all works. I just need to keep showing up with what I have and trust that it matters, that it moves something, that it carries weight, that it brings glory to you. The oil will flow, not because I am capable, but because you are faithful. And that is more than enough. Father, as I rest in the truth that what I bring to you, no matter how small, can be multiplied by your hand, I feel a new kind of courage rising in me. It is not the courage that comes from confidence in myself, but the assurance that I am not walking into this day alone. You are not only the one who multiplies my offering, you are also the one who goes before me. You fight battles I cannot see. You defend what I cannot reach. You are the God who fights for me, and that changes everything. Father, there are moments when I still feel surrounded by problems too complex, pressure too heavy, by circumstances too strong for me to face alone. I wake up some days already tired from the weight of what lies ahead, but you remind me now, gently and firmly, that I was never called to face it all in my own strength. My role is not to be the warrior. My role is to stand in faith and watch as you do what only you can do. I think of the story of Jehoshaphat, when armies far greater than his own rose against him. He did not have a strategy strong enough, nor an army large enough. But he had something more powerful. He had worship, and he had trust. He turned his eyes to you, confessed his weakness, and lifted his voice in praise. And you responded not with instructions to fight, but with a promise. The battle is not yours, but mine. That promise still speaks today. Father, I look at the battles in my life, not always armies, but situations that feel just as overwhelming. Internal battles of doubt, external battles of conflict, silent battles of endurance. And I hear you whisper again, the battle is not yours, it belongs to me. What peace that brings, what strength it gives, to know that I am not abandoned in the fight, that I am not expected to win it on my own, that victory does not depend on my perfection, but on your power. I stand here. Father, not with armor I forged myself, but clothed in the confidence of your presence. You are the one who surrounds me with protection I cannot see. You are the one who fights with wisdom I do not understand. When I come to the edge of what I can do, you are just beginning to move. And so I release to you what feels like battle today. I surrender what I have tried to fix, to manage, to fight on my own. I lay it down and declare that you are greater. Let my heart remember that sometimes the most powerful thing I can do is be still and believe. Let me resist the urge to panic, to control, to strive. Let me choose the posture of trust instead, the posture of one who knows her defender is near. Let me hold my peace not because everything is calm, but because I know the one who calms it. Let me wait without fear, walk without dread, speak without anxiety. Because if you are fighting for me, then no enemy can stand against me for long. Father, I do not always understand how you move. Sometimes the battles you win look different than I expected. Sometimes the outcomes you choose do not match the plans I prayed for. But still I trust, because you see what I do not. You fight for more than just comfort. You fight for my growth, my freedom, my healing. You fight for what lasts. And even when it feels like nothing is shifting on the outside, I believe you are working deep within. Today, I choose not to be defined by the pressure around me, but by the protection over me. I choose not to speak in fear, but in faith. I choose to believe that when I am weak, you are strong on my behalf. That when I have no words left, my worship can still rise. That when the enemy presses in, you raise a standard against him. That I do not need to be the strongest one in the room. I only need to remember that you are with me. Father, let this truth guide the way I move through every conversation, every responsibility, every challenge. Let it remind me not to shrink back or shrink down, but to stand with quiet confidence. Let it give me the courage to walk forward into things that once felt intimidating. Let it guard my mind when lies try to make me question my worth, my place, my future. I do not fight for victory. I fight from victory, because you have already declared it over me. So I choose to lift my head today, not in pride, but in peace. I choose to face what comes not with clenched fists, but with open hands. I choose to move forward not because I feel strong, but because I know you go before me. You are my shelter. You are my strength. You are the one who parts seas, who breaks chains, who speaks and mountains move. And you are not far away. You are here, in this very moment, fighting battles I do not even know exist. And that is enough to carry me through this day. Father, as I hold on to the truth that you fight for me, a quiet realization begins to form in my spirit. While you go before me in battle, you also place before me choices. With each new dawn, I find myself standing at crossroads, not dramatic, loud moments, but subtle ones, scattered throughout the day. And it is in these hidden intersections that the shape of my heart is revealed, the path I choose again and again. In thought, in word, in action, becomes the path I walk toward my future. Father, I confess that sometimes I long for you to simply choose for me to mark the right way in bold letters, to make it impossible for me to miss it. But you, in your wisdom and love, do not force my hand. You invite me into relationship, where trust must breathe, and love must be free. So I arrive at each choice not as a robot, but as a child who knows her father walks beside her, whispering wisdom, waiting for her to listen. It is not just the big decisions. Father, sometimes it is the way I respond to interruptions, the tone I choose in moments of tension, the way I see another person through the lens of grace or judgment, the decision to stay present instead of escaping into distraction, the choice to speak truth gently or remain silent in fear. These quiet moments build the story of my life, and in each one, I need you. I do not trust my feelings alone to guide me. Father, they shift like the wind. I do not place my hope in what is popular or easy. That road is wide, but it does not always lead to peace. I want your voice to shape my discernment. I want to choose not just what is good, but what is best. Not just what is available, but what is aligned with who you created me to be. Let my will be formed not by impulse, but by intimacy with you. Father, when I am weary, it is easy to choose what numbs instead of what nourishes. When I am afraid, I am tempted to choose what protects my pride rather than what grows my soul. But you remind me that every yes I give to you opens the door to transformation, and every no I offer to fear, to bitterness, to ego, is an act of holy resistance. Let me not live by reaction, but by revelation. Let me pause long enough to hear you before I respond to life around me. I know the enemy works in whispers too, not always with shouts of obvious sin, but with the subtle suggestion that compromise one matter, that resentment is justified, that silence is safer, that rushing is productive. But you call me to something higher, a life where every small decision becomes an altar of trust, a life where choosing your way, even when it costs me something, leads me closer to freedom. Father, help me recognize the crossroads when they come. Help me see that hesitation is not always weakness, but sometimes wisdom. Remind me that I can pause, breathe, and seek you. That I am not late if I wait for peace. That clarity often comes not in chaos, but in stillness. And when I do not feel clarity, help me choose humility to move slowly, kindly, and open-hearted, without pretending to know everything. You have given me agency, but you have not left me without a guide. Your Spirit dwells within me. Your word lights my path. Your example in Jesus shows me how to walk in love when I want to choose control. So today, as I enter this day of intersections of decisions, both seen and unseen, I ask that you gently steer me, not with force, but with nudges of grace that I will recognize and trust. Help me choose presence over distraction, mercy over criticism, truth over convenience, purpose over pressure. Help me choose to see myself and others as you see us, not as roles, mistakes, or tasks, but as souls you long to restore. Let me choose stillness when my thoughts race, and boldness when fear tries to shrink me. Let me choose integrity when no one is watching, and compassion when everyone is watching. Let me choose the path that leads to peace, even when it is narrow and unfamiliar. Father, I may not always get it right, but I believe you meet me even in my missteps. You do not shame me for getting lost. You rejoice when I return. You use even detours to draw me closer to you. So let my heart be teachable. Let my spirit remain soft. Let me resist the lie that I have to be perfect to be in your will. Let me rest in the truth that you are not only the God of direction, but the God of redemption. And when I look back on today, Father, let me see a trail of choices made not out of fear or haste, but out of love. Love for you, love for others, love for who I am becoming in your hands. Let that be the measure of my success, not outcomes or applause, but the quiet confidence that I lived this day with intention and surrender. So as I stand at the threshold of this day, I take a breath and remember every small choice matters. And with you walking beside me, I do not choose alone. Father, in the quiet that lingers after the crossroads, I find myself in a space that feels still yet not always peaceful. The choices have been made, the paths taken, the prayers spoken. But now, I wait, and this waiting, though silent on the outside, roars on the inside. I thought choosing would bring clarity, but instead, it has brought this pause. And so, I come to you again, not asking for signs or shortcuts, but for grace to remain steady when the answers delay. You know, Father, how restless I can be when things do not move on my timetable. You see the way I check for signs of progress, how I whisper questions into the silence, hoping for a hint. I trust you, but I confess that waiting tests the depth of that trust. It is not easy to stay hopeful when everything around me seems unmoved. It is not easy to feel seen when nothing changes. But still, I return to you, because you are the God who waits with me. You never rush what needs time to become holy. You do not panic when doors remain closed. You are not anxious when fruit takes longer to ripen. And if you are not worried, then why should I be? Help me, Father, to see waiting not as punishment, but as preparation, a place where roots grow deeper, where character is refined, where trust is tested and strengthened not in outcomes, but in your presence alone. Father, when the waiting stretches long, my mind can wander into questions that feel sharp. Did I hear you right? Did I miss something? Have I done enough? And in those moments, I need your voice to cut through the noise, not with harshness, but with calm assurance. Remind me that delays are not denials, that hidden work is still work, that faith is sometimes measured not in movement, but in staying still and choosing to believe anyway. You teach me that some answers are slow because they are sacred, that not everything is meant to come quickly, that the waiting room of life is not empty, but filled with unseen miracles taking shape. And if I could see behind the veil, I might find angels placing pieces where they belong, timing events with perfection I could never orchestrate on my own. Father, give me strength for the middle places, the in-between seasons where nothing looks finished, but everything is being formed. Help me to wait well, not just pass time, but pass through time with eyes that still look for beauty, with a heart that still chooses gratitude, with a spirit that leans on you instead of striving to control. Let my waiting not turn into weariness, but into worship. Sometimes I think I am waiting for a result, but what I really long for is reassurance that I am not forgotten, that I am not drifting, that you still hold the pen and write this story with care. So if you do nothing else today, Father, let me feel your nearness. Let that be enough. Let that carry me through another hour. Another sunrise, another stretch of silence, when others around me seem to move forward, succeed, bloom in ways I do not. Protect my heart from envy. Teach me to celebrate without comparing. Teach me to trust that my timeline is no less divine. Just because it looks different, your plans for me are not late. They are layered. They are aligned with a wisdom that sees far beyond what I can imagine. Father, I release the need to hurry. I lay down the clock I have built in my head. I surrender the false belief that quicker is better. I embrace the pace of grace, the rhythm you have set for me, even if it feels slow, even if it feels hidden. I do not want to outrun your process. I want to be present in it. Let me find joy in the small moments while I wait. A kind word, a beam of morning light, a whisper of peace that comes for no reason, but reminds me you are near. Let me not wait with clenched fists, but with open hands, ready to receive, ready to give, ready to live even in the meantime. Father, if the waiting stretches longer than I expected, then stretch my capacity to trust. If the answers remain unclear, then deepen my hunger for truth. If the silence lingers, then let it be filled with wonder instead of worry. Shape me not in spite of this season, but because of it. You are not just the God of destinations. You are the God of the journey. And you are especially the God of the pauses in between. There is nothing passive about how you move in stillness. So help me walk through this quiet season, not as one abandoned, but as one being guided more gently, more deeply, more completely. Let my soul rest in the knowledge that you are never late, that you do not waste time, that even when I wait, you are working. You are rearranging what needs to be rearranged. You are softening hearts, opening paths, mending what I cannot see. I do not need to understand the process, to trust the one who holds it. Father, as this day unfolds, let me wait with courage. Let me smile even when I do not see movement. Let me speak life into this day as if the breakthrough has already begun. Let me serve others while I wait, knowing that love is never delayed. Let me write prayers instead of timelines. Let me live from hope instead of hurry. And when I finally look back on this waiting season, I do not want to just say that I survived it. I want to say that I was transformed by it, that I met you in deeper ways, that I heard you in the silence, that I found strength in surrender, that I trusted you not because you performed quickly, but because you were present faithfully. Father, I believe even now, something is moving, maybe not out there, but in me, and that movement is holy. So I will not despise this stillness. I will not fear the slowness. I will not rush the unfolding. I will wait, but I will wait with purpose. I will wait, and I will worship. I will wait, and I will trust that you are in the waiting with me. Father, as the echoes of waiting still hum softly in my spirit, I feel a quiet nudge, a gentle push forward, not dramatic, not loud, but firm. After the stillness, there comes a stirring, and from that stirring, the whisper to begin again, not from the mountaintop of victory, nor with the certainty of outcomes, but from the low, sacred ground of trust. You invite me to rise not when I feel completely ready, but when I am simply willing. And so, I bring you my hesitant heart, asking for the courage to start anew. You know, Father, how easy it is for me to stay in places that feel familiar, even if they are no longer fruitful, to keep rehearsing old failures or replaying what could have been. But you are not the God of regret. You are the God of redemption, and you call me not to perfection, but to participation. Even broken beginnings can become beautiful in your hands. Today, I ask you to help me take the next step, even if it is small, even if it is trembling, even if it feels insignificant. I do not need to leap forward, I just need to move with you. Help me to let go of the weight of all that did not work, and carry only what wisdom those moments taught me. Let my past be fertilizer, not chains. Let my mistakes become seeds of grace, not roots of shame. Father, remind me that starting again is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of faith. Faith that believes you are not done with me. Faith that dares to dream again. Faith that knows even dust can dance when you breathe life into it. Give me courage that does not wait for ideal circumstances. Courage that grows in ordinary places. Courage that says yes even when fear whispers no. I bring to you the dreams I buried because they felt too far gone. I lay before you the hopes I abandoned because time wore them down. And I ask if even a sliver of those things still reflect your will. Breathe into them. Resurrect what still has purpose. Silence the voice that says it is too late. Replace it with your truth that says, I make all things new. Father, give me the eyes to see the value in beginning small. Help me not despise the early steps, the humble attempts, the quiet acts of obedience that no one else may notice. Remind me that mustard seeds move mountains, that 5 loaves can feed thousands, that your power does not wait for grandeur, it moves best through surrender. I confess, starting again often means forgiving myself, for quitting too soon, for being distracted, for giving up out of fear. Teach me, Father, how to release myself from that guilt, to stop punishing myself for what you already covered with grace. You do not count the number of times I fall, but the number of times I choose to rise. And so here I am rising. Again, let me not wait for perfect motivation. Let me act even with imperfect energy. Let obedience come before enthusiasm. Let purpose lead me until passion catches up. Even if I start quietly, let me start intentionally. Even if I begin alone, let me begin with you. Father, renew my confidence not in my abilities, but in your presence. Remind me that I do not walk alone, that angels go before me, that heaven cheers me on, that your Spirit equips me with what I lack. Even my weakness is no barrier, because your strength is made perfect there. So I do not need to be brave in my own name. I simply need to trust yours. Let my new beginning be marked by grace, not pressure, by surrender, not striving, by movement, not measurement. I will not track progress the way the world does. I will look for signs of peace, of joy, of deeper trust. These are the markers of a holy beginning. If I stumble again, remind me quickly that it is not the end, that I am not starting over, but starting forward, that each time I begin, I am carrying more wisdom, more resilience, more of you. Let my story be one of countless restarts, each one shaped more and more by your fingerprints. Father, let me see the sacredness of this day, not as one more in a long list, but as the day I chose to trust again, to breathe deeper, to try once more. Let it be the day where heaven smiled, because a discouraged heart chose not to quit. Let it be the day I stood up, not with loud declarations, but with quiet resolve. You are the God who never tires of new beginnings. And because of that, I will not fear starting again. Father, now that I have begun again with the quiet courage you planted in my heart, I feel the temptation to rush to catch up, to make up for lost time, to prove that starting over was not a mistake. But even in this eagerness, I hear your whisper calling me back into stillness, not of inactivity, but of peace. You remind me that the pace of grace is never frantic. And so, Father, teach me to walk slowly, not because I am hesitant, but because I am present, not because I am afraid to move forward, but because I want to move with intention. I want my steps to echo trust, not anxiety. I want my journey to reflect your rhythm, not the world's urgency. Help me resist the pressure to perform, to arrive quickly, to skip the slow unfolding of what you are doing in me. Your glory is often hidden in what takes time. Let me not confuse slowness with stagnation. There is deep movement in quiet growth. Roots stretch downward before trees reach the sky. Foundations are laid long before walls rise. You are not in a hurry with me. So why should I rush myself? Father, help me stay grounded in the truth that speed is not a fruit of the Spirit, but patience is. Endurance is. Faithfulness is. Teach me to cherish the process more than the product. To see value in every moment, not just in outcomes. To trust that even when I cannot measure progress, you are weaving purpose. If I measure each step by external results, I may miss the quiet miracles unfolding within. So open my eyes to the growth that happens beneath the surface. Show me that slow progress is still holy progress. Father, in a world that prizes instant results, remind me that the eternal cannot be microwave. True transformation takes time, and time is not my enemy when it is held in your hands. You are never late, never early, always right on time. So help me stay in sync with you, not chasing outcomes, but following your footsteps. As I walk this day with you, help me notice what I would otherwise miss in haste, the soft wind that reminds me I am alive. The kindness of a stranger, the lesson hidden in a detour, the beauty of a task done quietly but well. Help me be attentive to the sacredness of small things. Let my pace make room for wonder. When others run ahead, when comparison tempts me to accelerate just to keep up, remind me that my path is my own. That your calling on my life is not measured by someone else's timeline. That your plan is not threatened by my delays or detours. That my worth is not in how fast I arrive, but in how deeply I trust while I journey. Father, teach me the art of walking with you, not sprinting to escape myself. Let me not use activity to avoid intimacy with you. Let each step become a conversation, each pause a prayer, each moment an invitation to lean on you more. I do not want to outrun the grace you have assigned to this day. I want to dwell in it, to soak in it, to let it shape me from the inside out. Slow me down not to stall me, but to settle me. Settle me in truth. Settle me in peace. Settle me in the assurance that I am deeply loved, even when I produce nothing impressive. That my soul is not measured by productivity, but by proximity to you. Father, you walked in the garden in the cool of the day. You met people on dusty roads. You called your disciples to follow, not to race. When you walked this earth, you stopped to notice the bleeding woman, the blind man, the broken sinner in the crowd. You did not rush past pain, nor did you dismiss the slow work of healing. Help me do the same. Let me walk through this day without fear of missing out, without chasing validation, without the need to be ahead. Ahead of what? Ahead of whom? You are already in every moment waiting to meet me. Why should I rush to what you have already prepared? If my legs grow weary, remind me it is okay to rest. If I fall behind in the eyes of the world, assure me that I am still right on time in yours. Let rest be an act of trust, not an admission of weakness. Let slowness be a posture of worship, not a symptom of doubt. Father, as I walk slowly with you, help me carry only what is necessary: peace, hope, gratitude. Strip away the burdens I was never meant to bear, the need to impress, the fear of falling short, the urgency to fix what only you can heal. Let my load be light, because I have laid it down before you. Today, I do not ask for a long list of accomplishments. I ask for clarity, for quietness of soul, for the grace to be where my feet are, to walk in rhythm with your spirit, to be obedient in the unseen. faithful in the unnoticed, joyful in the simple. And if I arrive at the end of this day, nothing more than having walked slowly and honestly with you, then let that be enough. Let that be victory. Let that be worship. Let that be the true success this world rarely sees, but heaven always celebrates. Father, thank you for walking with me, not pushing, not dragging, but gently leading. I will not rush this life you have given me. I will walk it with wonder. Father, as the silence of the morning deepens within me, I feel the stillness you offer washing over my weary spirit, like the gentle hush that falls over a lake at dawn. There is a sacred quiet in your presence that calms the restlessness I so often carry in the wake of yesterday's long journey through vulnerability and trust. I find myself thirsting for this peace, the kind that does not require answers. Only surrender. You are not in the storm of performance or the thunder of striving. You are in the whisper, the quiet echo that says, I am yours, even when all my strength is gone. And in that knowing, I can finally breathe again. It is in this sacred pause that I recognize how often I have chased after things that could never hold me. I have run after validation, exhausted myself for approval, and strained to build safety out of fragile things. But here with you, in the still waters of this moment, I realize I do not have to run. I do not have to prove anything. I do not have to be impressive. I only need to be present. And being present with you is the most healing thing can do. It is not about perfection. It is not about productivity. It is about presence, yours and mine, and the miracle that happens when they meet. You see me. Father, you see beneath the surface, past the smile I wear and the words I speak, into the places I often hide, even from myself. And yet, you do not flinch. You do not look away. You do not hurry me to change. Instead, you wait. You stay. You draw near. And you let your love do the work my efforts never could. This is not the kind of love I have known from the world. It does not tire. It does not fade. It does not depend on my worthiness. It simply is unshakable and unearned. And in the quiet of this early hour, that truth begins to settle in like sunlight stretching across the horizon, soft, steady, undeniable. I am loved. Not hypothetically, not when I am better, but now, as I am. What a radical, almost frightening thought, to be fully known and still fully embraced. It undoes me in the best way. It breaks the old lies and makes room for something real. Something rooted. Something that cannot be stolen by fear or shame. Father, I come to you not with polished prayers or elegant words, but with my heart wide open. I bring the parts of me that still ache, the disappointments I have buried, the doubts I have tried to silence, and the hopes I barely dare to name. I bring them to you not because I have answers, but because I am learning that I do not need to have them. I just need to know where to go, and I choose to come to you again and again until my soul learns how to rest. This kind of rest is different from sleep. It is not an escape. It is not avoidance. It is presence with you, where I stop striving to be enough and start believing that I already am, because you said so. I have carried so much tension in my shoulders, so much pressure in my chest, so many voices in my mind telling me I am behind, not good enough, too much or not enough. But here with you, those voices begin to lose their grip. They grow quiet. They dissolve in the sound of your heartbeat, constant, unchanging, sure. I can feel the ground beneath me again. I can sense the rhythm of my own breath slowing down to meet the rhythm of your grace. And I know now that I do not have to be afraid of the stillness. The stillness is not empty. It is full of you. It is where transformation begins, not in the noise of doing, but in the quiet of being with you, being loved by you, being shaped by the invisible hands that hold the universe and still find room to hold me. Father, in this sacred space, I ask you to help me protect this stillness. The world will try to pull me back into chaos the moment I rise from this moment. Notifications, demands, expectations, they all come rushing in. But help me carry this stillness with me. Help me return to it like an anchor when the waves rise. Help me guard it like treasure, not just in the morning, but throughout the day. Teach me how to retreat into your presence, not as an escape, but as my home. And when I feel the panic rise again, when I forget that I am safe in you, remind me of this morning. Remind me of the still waters. Remind me of how it feels to be fully known and yet not rejected. Remind me of the miracle of being held without needing to perform. Let these memories become altars in my heart, places I return to when I need to remember who you are and who I am in you. Thank you for meeting me here, not with a lecture, but with love, not with demands, but with delight. You enjoy me. That is a hard truth to grasp sometimes. I often believe you love me because you have to. But delight, that you would look at me and smile, that is a truth that shakes the foundations of my fear. And yet, again and again, you whisper it in the quiet, and maybe today, I can begin to believe it. Maybe today, I can let that truth write a new story over the old one. So I lead in. Father, I lean into the stillness, into the safety, into the softness of your nearness. I let myself be small here, not because I am insignificant, but because I am safe enough to stop pretending I am bigger than I am. You are God, and I am not. And that is the most freeing truth of all. I do not have to carry what was never mine. I do not have to fix what I cannot fix. I do not have to be what only you can be. I just have to stay close, to breathe deep, to trust, and so I will, one breath at a time. Father, as I let each breath return me to this moment, I feel the quiet rhythm of being yours again. The stillness from yesterday still lingers like the echo of a lullaby I do not want to stop hearing. And yet, even as I cradle that peace, I also feel the familiar pull of movement calling. Life never stands still for long, and neither do the worries that tend to resurface with the light of a new day. But this time, Father, I do not want to rush past the stillness. I want to carry it forward, like a lantern through the shadowy corners of my heart. I want to learn how to walk slowly, how to stay rooted in the deep truth that I am held even as everything around me spins. Today feels different, not because my circumstances have changed, but because I am beginning to believe you are with me not only in sacred silence, but also in noise and routine. You are in the pile of dishes, in the crowded to-do list, in the tension I sometimes carry in my chest when things do not go as I planned. And if you are truly present in all of it, then perhaps there is nothing too ordinary to be holy. Maybe even my smallest thoughts can become prayers. Maybe the sigh I release after a long pause is its own kind of worship. Maybe the way I notice the light through the window is a kind of reverence. Father, I used to think I had to separate the spiritual from the practical. I thought I had to finish praying and then go back to life. But now I see, it is all connected. Prayer does not end when I say amen. It lingers in how I speak to people, in how I show up for the tasks I have been given, in how I sit with my emotions instead of rushing past them. Life with you is not a compartment. It is a current, and I am learning to let it carry me in trying to control the direction on my own. I know I will forget again. I will get caught in hurry. I will drift into fear. I will doubt, as I often do. But you do not shame me for that. You meet me there too. And if grace is a place, then you have built me a home that do not have to earn my way back into. Every time I forget who I am, you remind me not with harshness, but with the gentle persistence of light that never stops finding its way through. There is so much pressure in the world to have it all figured out, to fix, to perform, to shine without ever showing our cracks. But Father, you are the only one who has never asked me to pretend. You never told me to be impressive. You only invited me to be real, and sometimes real means messy. Sometimes it means confused. Sometimes it means sitting in the tension and not rushing to resolve it. And in that place, you do your best work, not by snapping your fingers and changing everything, but by softening the ground of my heart so that truth can take root. So today, I ask you to teach me how to stay soft. The world rewards hardness, toughness, shields, sarcasm, but you are the God who chose vulnerability. You entered our fragile world not with power and spectacle, but with a baby's cry and open hands. If you were not afraid to be soft, then maybe I do not have to be either. Maybe softness is not weakness. Maybe it is the gateway to something deeper. I want to live with a heart that does not need to guard itself all the time. I want to believe that I am safe even when I am uncertain. I want to speak words that bring warmth and not coldness. I want to notice the people around me and not just rush past them on the way to something I have decided is more important. Because in the end, maybe what matters most is not how much I do, but how present I am to you, to others, to myself. And so, Father, help me stay present when my mind races ahead or clings to the past. Help me return to right now, not because now is perfect, but because now is where you are. This moment, this breath, this heartbeat, all of it sacred, all of it held. And if I can remember that, even for a little while, I think I will move through today with a different kind of strength. Not the strength to conquer, but the strength to remain open. There is a strange courage required to remain open, especially in a world that often wounds. But you are the healer of wounds and the protector of tender places. So I entrust my softness to you, trusting that you will not let it be trampled. And when the day feels too loud, too fast, too heavy, let me return again to the quiet undercurrent that has never left me, the truth that I am not alone, the whisper that I am still yours. Sometimes I wonder how you see me, not the curated version, not the one I present to the world, but the real me, the one who worries, who overthinks, who forgets things, who is sometimes afraid of their own longing. And yet, every time I ask that question, I sense the answer before I hear it. You see me through the lens of love, not as a disappointment or a project, but as someone worth staying with, someone worth guiding, even when I lose my way. That kind of love changes people. It makes them braver. It teaches them how to rest without guilt and how to stand without shame. And that is what I want to carry into today, not just the memory of being loved, but the reality of it, pulsing through my choices, my words, my silence. Let love be the posture of my entire life, not just a feeling I chase, but a foundation I stand on. And even now, as the minutes move forward and the sun climbs higher, I feel the weight of the day beginning to form. Tasks, expectations, unknowns, but I also feel the grounding that comes from being seen and not rejected, from being known and not abandoned, from being invited to walk with you, not ahead, not behind, but beside, step by step, word by word, breath by breath. Father, thank you for not giving up on teaching me this, for returning again and again to remind me that I am more than my performance, that your love does not fluctuate with my mood or my record, that I can return to you at any moment and find no locked doors, only open arms, only softness where I expect judgment, only light where I expected silence. And so, with all that I am today, I choose again to walk slowly, to speak gently, to love honestly, to trust deeply, not because I have mastered anything, but because you have shown me how, because you keep showing me how. And that, somehow, is more than enough. Father, as I rise with the hush of early morning wrapped around me, I feel the memory of yesterday's stillness still resting gently on my soul. There is something sacred in how you have been showing me that peace is not always loud or triumphant. Sometimes, it is soft and almost invisible, like dew on grass that disappears in the warmth of sunlight, but nourishes the roots all the same. And though I know how easily I drift from that place of centeredness, I also know now that I can return to it over and over, without shame or hesitation, because you never closed the door. You never stopped inviting me back. That is what gives me courage today, not the absence of fear, but the certainty that I am allowed to begin again and again, as many times as I need. Each sunrise is a reset, each breath a reminder that my story is not stuck. My failures do not define me. My doubts do not disqualify me. even when my faith feels small. It is still enough for you to work with, because you are not measuring me by my strength. You are measuring by your grace, and that never runs out. There is something freeing in realizing that I do not have to impress you. You are not looking for my perfection. You are looking for my presence. And when I show up tired, confused, hopeful, broken, joyful, or unsure, you receive me the same way every time, with open arms, with eyes that see through every layer I hide behind, with a love that is not fooled by my masks, but is never deterred by my mess. That kind of love is rare, and I do not want to take it for granted. I want to live as someone who knows they are loved like that. So, Father, as this new day stretches before me like a blank canvas, help me resist the urge to rush through it or fill it with noise. Help me remember that I do not need to prove anything, that I am not behind, that I am not late, that I am not too much or too little. I am exactly where you are meeting me, and that is the most honest place I could ever be. There are days when I feel full of purpose, and there are days when I wonder if I am doing anything that matters. But even in the questions, you are present. Even when clarity is far, you are near. You are not waiting for me at the finish line. You are walking with me now, step by step, moment by moment, and that makes even the mundane meaningful. Father, I have learned that healing is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace when anxiety knocks. Sometimes it looks like forgiving even when bitterness feels justified. Sometimes it is in the small act of breathing deeply, of choosing to pause, of returning to truth instead of spiraling into old stories. And all of these little moments, these quiet, hidden victories, they matter to you. You see them all. You honor them all. I used to think I had to be strong all the time, that letting others see my tears made me weak. But you have shown me a better way. You have shown me that real strength is found in honesty, in vulnerability, in choosing softness in a world that rewards hard edges. And so today, I offer you the pieces of me that still feel fragile. I trust you with the parts I have not figured out yet, the questions I do not have answers for, the longings I am afraid to name out loud. And even as I carry those things, I also carry joy, not the loud, exuberant kind though that has its place, but the steady joy that comes from knowing I am not alone, that whatever this day brings, I will not face it without you. The same God who painted the sky this morning is guiding my every step. That kind of joy changes how I move through the world. It quiets my striving. It roots me in something deeper than circumstance. It opens my eyes to wonder, even in familiar places. Let me notice beauty today. Father, let me slow down enough to see the light dancing on leaves, to hear the hush of wind through trees, to taste the sweetness in my coffee, to smile at the way laughter echoes when it is shared without guard. Help me not rush past these gifts. Let me receive them as reminders that life is not just about tasks and progress. It is about presence, connection, grace. And when hard things come, and I know they will help me, remember that I am not powerless, that I can choose how I respond, that I can pause before reacting, that I can breathe before speaking, that I can listen before defending. that I can lead with love, even when it is hard, especially when it is hard. Father, help me carry compassion into every space I enter today, not just for others, but for myself too. When I feel scattered, remind me to be gentle. When I fall short, remind me I am still worthy. When I feel unseen, remind me that you see me fully. Let your voice be louder than my inner critic. Let your truth speak louder than fear. Let your peace anchor me when everything else feels uncertain. And most of all, let me remember who I am not because of what I do, but because of whose I am. I am yours. I am held. I am chosen. I am becoming. Not in some far-off future, but right now, in this very moment. And that is enough. So I step into today not with the pressure to be perfect, but with the freedom to be present. I give myself permission to try, to fail, to laugh, to cry, to rest, to move, to pause, to live fully awake to the sacredness of now. Because now is where you meet me. Now is where you speak. Now is where grace is waiting. And with that awareness, I choose again to begin. Not because I have everything figured out, but because you do. Not because I am certain, but because I am surrendered. And that is the truest beginning of all. Father, after choosing once again to begin, I find myself not rushing into action, but resting first in stillness. The kind of stillness that does not scream to be productive, but simply allows me to listen. The kind that does not demand progress as proof of worth, but lets me breathe without pressure. I realize now that beginning again is not always a loud declaration. Sometimes it is a soft turning of the heart, a gentle nod to grace, a quiet step toward trust. This morning, that stillness feels like a sanctuary. It holds my scattered thoughts without judgment. It welcomes my fragile hopes without condition. And as I linger here with you, I feel something shifting, not in my circumstances, but inside me. Like the ground beneath my feet is steadier, not because life has changed, but because I am choosing to anchor myself in your presence again. There is a peace that comes when I stop fighting for control and simply open my hands. I used to think that momentum came only from motion, but now I see that the greatest momentum often starts in surrender. In saying, "Here I am," before I even know what the day will bring. In choosing to trust before the answers arrive. In letting go of timelines and letting you teach me how to live in rhythms of grace. And in that letting go, something stronger than striving takes root: quiet resilience, born not from force but from faith. Father, the word outside often rewards hurry, loud voices, and visible results. But you are teaching me the value of slow, the power of listening, the sacredness of small things done with great love. You are reminding me that the pace of peace is different from the pace of performance, that real transformation often happens below the surface, unseen by others but deeply known by you. So I ask you to meet me in the places where I still feel hesitant, where I still wonder if I am doing enough, where fear of falling short lingers at the edges of my mind. Help me name those fears without shame and place them in your hands. Because when I am afraid, I tend to grip tightly, to shrink back, to second guess. but you are inviting me to loosen my grip, to trust that even in uncertainty, I am not unheld. And in this trust, I want to walk differently today. I want to speak with softness, not as a sign of weakness, but as a reflection of strength rooted in love. I want to listen more than I speak, and understand more than I defend. I want to pause before I react, breathe before I respond, and move through each encounter with a heart that remembers who I am and whose I am. Father, I do not want to miss you in the ordinary, in the quiet footsteps down the hallway, in the hum of everyday chores, in the conversation that seems small but carries hidden depth. Let me be present enough to notice. Let me lean into the sacred right in front of me, because when I am rushing, I miss the details, the kindness in a glance, the warmth of sunlight on my skin, the echo of laughter that carries more healing than words ever could. And when the noise of the world grows louder, when I am pulled in a dozen directions and every moment seems urgent, help me return to this center, this place where I am reminded that not every battle is mine to fight, not every invitation is mine to accept, not every burden is mine to carry. Help me discern what is mine and what is yours, what is urgent and what is eternal, what drains my soul and what draws me closer to you. Even when I feel weary before the day begins, remind me that rest is not earned by exhaustion. It is a gift freely offered, a rhythm I am invited to embrace. Let me carry peace as a posture, not just a destination. Let me return to stillness not just when I break, but before I begin, because you are not found only in mountaintops or grand revelations. You are here, in this breath, in this silence, in this slow beginning. Father, help me walk in the strength that comes from knowing I am already enough, not because I have achieved, but because I belong. Let that belonging shape my choices today. Let it guide how I show up in the world, not with the need to prove, but with the freedom to offer kindness when it is inconvenient, to offer patience when it stretches me, to offer grace, not just when it is deserved, but when it is needed, and when I forget, because I will draw me back gently. Remind me that failure is not final, that forgetting does not make me faithless, that grace is not a one-time pass, but a daily provision. Let my returning never be delayed by shame. Let my heart learn to turn toward you quickly, joyfully, naturally, like a sunflower following the light. In this way, let each moment become a prayer not spoken aloud, but lived in intention. Let my actions be worship. Let my pauses be reverence. Let my ordinary steps be sacred ground, because they are walked with you, even when no one sees, even when it feels unseen by me. Let your eyes remind me that nothing is wasted when it is given in love. Today, I choose to value presence over performance, heart over hustle, depth over noise, and in doing so, I feel lighter not because my to-do list is shorter, but because I am not carrying it alone. I feel steadier not because life is predictable, but because you are unshaken. I feel braver not because I know what comes next, because I trust who walks with me. Father, teach me the art of walking slowly enough to recognize beauty, deeply enough to feel joy, and intentionally enough to leave room for wonder. Let my day not just be filled, but fulfilled. Let peace mark my path not as a destination I hope to reach, but as a companion I carry along the way. And in every breath, in every step, in every quiet return to your presence, may I discover again that stillness is not the absence of movement, but the place where true strength begins. Father, as I continue walking in the gentle rhythm of stillness you have been teaching me, I realize that true peace does not always arrive with answers, but often with acceptance, not passive resignation, but deep surrender and active, trusting release of what I was never meant to hold so tightly. This morning, the air feels quiet, not because the world is calm, because my heart is learning to be. And that calmness, Father, is the fruit of surrender. The surrender that was quietly blooming yesterday now begins to show its shape in how I move through today. It is strange how surrender, something that once felt like defeat, now feels like strength. Not the kind that comes with clenched fists or bold declarations, but the kind that comes when I stop grasping and start trusting. When I stop building my day around control and instead build it on communion with you, with truth, with the quiet reality that I am not the center of the universe, but I am held at the center of your love, and that is enough. This surrender is not a single moment, but 100 small choices I will make today. To pause before reacting, to speak even when I fear my voice won't be enough, to wait even when I want to rush, to stay soft even when I feel misunderstood. And every one of those choices becomes a prayer, not because they are perfect, but because they are offered, given not for approval, but out of love, not to prove my worth, but as a response to already being deeply loved. Father, teach me again that surrender is not about giving up, but giving over, handing over my assumptions, my expectations, my carefully planned timelines that often leave no room for wonder. I do not want to miss your fingerprints in the unexpected. I do not want to rush past the places where you are still writing the story because I am too busy trying to finish the chapter myself. Remind me that what feels like delay might be preparation, that what feels like silence might be sacred. And when I find myself reaching again for what I just gave to you when I start, rehearsing worries or trying to force open doors, you have asked me to trust. Help me return, gently and without shame. You are not surprised by my forgetfulness. You do not tire of reminding me who I am and who you are. Every return is not a setback, but a step deeper into grace. This is the day you have made, not one I must manage. It is not my job to make it extraordinary, but to meet it with presence, to meet it with courage, to meet it with open hands and a heart that whispers, whatever it brings, I will not face it alone. And with that confidence, I begin again, not because I know all things, but because I know you are with me in all things. Let surrender shape not only how I carry what is hard, but also how I celebrate what is good. Let me receive joy without guilt, delight without suspicion, beauty without needing to explain it. Let me see blessings not as things I must protect from loss, but as gifts to hold lightly, gratefully, generously. May I never grip goodness so tightly that I forget it comes from you and is meant to flow through me. Father, in this quiet, I notice how easily my heart can be stirred by small things. the warmth of light spilling across the floor, the quiet creak of a house waking up, the smell of morning coffee. These are not meaningless, they are moments of grounding, reminders that life is not always found in grand milestones, but in the hum of the ordinary made sacred by presence, yours and mine, meeting again in the day's beginning. I want to live today without rushing through it, to move deliberately, to answer kindly, to risk being misunderstood if it means being honest, to hold room for mystery, for questions that do not need quick answers, for people who carry more than they show. Give me the eyes to see past the surface, and the grace to speak gently even when I do not fully understand. And when hard things come, as they sometimes do, let my surrender not dissolve into despair. Let it root me in resilience, not because I can do everything, but because I am anchored in you. Let that surrender become the place where strength is born again. Let it remind me that power and pressure are not the same thing, that trust is not weakness, that laying down what I cannot carry is not giving up, but making space for what you long to give me instead. Let me stop apologizing for being human, for needing rest, for not knowing, for having limits. You never ask me to be everything. You only ask me to abide. So I will abide today, in pauses, in whispers, in the quiet turning of my thoughts back toward you, in the steady rhythm of breath and trust, of letting go and leaning in. And in that abiding, let my life reflect not perfection but peace, the kind that does not shout or show off, but settles deep, the kind that changes how I see others no longer as obstacles or audience, but as fellow travelers, equally beloved, equally in need of grace. May I be a safe place for others today, not a fixer, not a judge, but someone whose presence makes room for hope. Father, thank you for meeting me here again, not because I earned it, but because you delight in being near. You never tire of my questions, my silence, my stumbles. You see beyond them to the heart that keeps turning toward you, even on the days when that turning feels slow and shaky. And that I am learning is more than enough. Let this be my prayer in motion, that I would walk lightly because I trust deeply, that I would speak life because I have received it, that I would move not from urgency but from alignment with what is true. And when my pace falters, when I forget, when I grow weary, let your quiet presence call me back, not with pressure, but with peace, not with shame, but with invitation. Because peace, I now see, is not the absence of problems, but the presence of surrender, and in that surrender, a new kind of strength is formed, not flashy or loud, but deep and lasting, the kind that steadies me when everything else shifts, the kind that whispers, you are safe, you are known, you are not alone, the kind that makes even ordinary days holy. Father, you are the steady presence in a world that shifts beneath my feet, and even now, I carry with me the hush of surrender you whispered into my heart yesterday. That surrender, which first felt like letting go, now unfolds into something deeper. Love, not the soft kind that fades when the winds blow, but the fierce, quiet kind that stays even when everything else falls away. I see it more clearly now, how surrender opens the doorway to love, and love becomes the reason I rise. Not love as the world measures it, with terms or conditions or expectations of return, but love as you give it, pure and unwavering. You love me not because I perform or impress, but because I exist, because I am yours, because you saw fit to shape me with intention, to breathe life into me, to call me good even on days I forget how to be. And that truth, Father, is what steadies me again this morning. So I sit here and ask not just to be loved by you, but to be someone who carries your love with tenderness and truth, to become a vessel of that deep, abiding goodness, not because I have mastered it, but because I have tasted it. Let that love not be a concept I visit, but a reality I live, a thread running through my words, my glances, my choices, even in the moments that seem small. Because love is not only for the grand gestures. It is for how I speak to the cashier when I am in a rush. It is for how I listen when someone repeats themselves. It is in how I forgive before I feel ready. It is in how I show up, not to fix or to impress, but simply to stay. Love is how I remain when it would be easier to retreat. Love is how I choose gentleness when pride knocks at my door. Love is how I begin again, not with certainty, but with willingness. Father, help me see love not as a feeling I chase, but as a posture I choose. When I feel overlooked, let me choose to see others. When I feel weary, let me choose to be kind. When I feel unseen, let me choose to notice. And when I feel powerless, let me remember that love is never wasted, that every small act offered in sincerity carries a weight you never overlook. Let me stop measuring love by outcome and instead by intention. Let me stop waiting for it to be safe before I offer it. Let me stop trying to guard my heart so tightly that I forget it was made to be given. Yes, love risks, but so does breathing. And I am not here just to survive. I am here to reflect the one who made me, who loves without limit and gives without fear. This morning, I bring to you not just my needs, but my desire to be transformed not by force, but by love. Let that transformation begin in the unseen places. In the spaces where I am tempted to harden, help me stay soft. In the places where I want to be right, help me be kind. In the places where I want to retreat, help me reach. In the places where I feel empty, help me receive. Remind me that love does not always look the same. Sometimes it is loud. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it confronts. Sometimes it comforts. Sometimes it says nothing, and its silence is presence. Let me not shrink from love, because I do not always know what form it should take. Let me trust that if I stay close to you, you will teach me how to love well. Father, help me to love myself, to not in vanity or pride, but in humility and grace. Help me speak to my own soul as I would to a dear friend. Help me stop rehearsing shame and start telling the truth. The truth that I am not broken beyond repair, that I am not too much or not enough, that I am not falling behind or failing some invisible test. I am human. I am learning. I am growing. I am loved. Let me release comparison today, and in its place, pick up compassion. For myself, for others, For those whose pain I do not understand, let me stop deciding who deserves grace, and instead remember that it is never earned, that you give it freely, and I am simply invited to reflect it. Let me not be the gatekeeper of love, but the one who leaves the door open, even in hard conversations. Let love be the undercurrent. Even when I must speak truth, let it be wrapped in gentleness. Even when I must say no, let it be rooted in care. And even when I do not have the right words, let my presence speak what my vocabulary cannot. Love, after all, is not always about saying the right thing. Sometimes it is just about staying when it is easier to leave. Father, I thank you for every person who has loved me when I was not easy to love, for the ones who stayed when I pushed away, for the ones who reminded me of beauty when I only saw brokenness, for the ones who held space, not trying to fix, but simply being near. They were your hands and heart to me. Let me now be that for someone else. And when I fail, which I will, help me not collapse into shame. Help me remember that love does not demand perfection. It asks for presence, for return, for the willingness to say, I missed it that time, but I am here now. Help me become someone whose love is not brittle, but resilient, not transactional, but overflowing. As I step into the unfolding hours of this day, I ask not for ease but for clarity. Let me see the people in front of me. Let me respond instead of react. Let me extend grace even when I feel I have none left. Let my exhaustion be a signal to rest, not to retreat. Let my limits be a reminder that I was never meant to carry everything alone. Most of all, let love be the anchor, not productivity, not perfection, not praise. Love alone, because in the end, that is what remains. That is what heals. That is what tells the truth about who you are. And if I am to carry anything today, let it be that, Father, you who dwell not only in heavens, but also within the hidden folds of silence, I enter this new morning carrying the echo of yesterday's prayer. The still whisper of love that became my compass now draws me to a deeper invitation: stillness. Not the absence of sound, but the presence of quiet purpose. Not the void of activity, but the calm of clarity. And as I breathe into this space with you, I begin to see how stillness is not empty but full. It is the one where peace is born. So much of life pulls me away from this stillness. The day begins, and with it comes the urgency to move, to fix, to respond. My thoughts race to the next task, the next voice calling for attention, the next worry waiting to be resolved. But this morning, I want to begin differently, not in haste, but in hush, not in frenzy, but in faith, because you are not in the noise or the fire or the earthquake. You are in the gentle whisper that waits for me to notice. Help me remember that stillness is not inactivity, it is alignment. It is the pause that gives meaning to the movement. It is the sacred breath between questions and answers. It is the way I remind my soul that it does not have to perform to be worthy. That it is enough to be here, to be awake, to be held by you in a world that demands so much yet often offers so little peace. Stillness is where I remember who I am, not the titles I wear, not the roles I juggle, not the expectations I try to meet, but the deeper identity beneath it, all the one you gave me before I ever did a thing. Beloved, yours, a reflection of eternal creativity clothed in human skin. Stillness helps me return to that center, to hear again the truth that gets drowned out in the noise of productivity and proving. Father, in this stillness, let me listen not just for direction, but for intimacy, not just for answers, but for awareness, not just for relief, but for relationship. I do not want to rush past you on the way to something else. I want to sit long enough to sense your nearness, to let my heart beat slow to the rhythm of grace, to let my mind unclench its grip on control and open its hands in surrender. There is something profoundly healing in stillness, because it allows the dust of anxiety to settle. It gives space for clarity to emerge. It silences the shouting of fear and gives volume to the quiet voice of trust. I do not need all the answers to be at peace. I need to trust the one who holds the answers. I do not need everything figured out. I need to remember that I am not navigating life alone. Stillness also teaches me patience. In a world that rewards speed, you invite me to wait, to not force the bloom before its season, to not rush the unfolding of the sacred. You are never late, yet rarely early. Your timing, though mysterious, is always merciful. Let that truth seep deep into the soil of my soul, quieting the panic that demands immediacy. Help me find purpose in the pause. Let stillness be my rebellion against a world that equates business with value. Let it be my sacred protest against the lie that my worth is in my output. Let it be the soil where roots grow deep, unseen but strong. Let it be the mirror where I see clearly not just what I do, but who I am becoming. Let it be the shelter where I am safe enough to feel, to grieve, to hope, to be human. In stillness, I also hear you speak in ways that rush never allows. Sometimes you speak through scripture, sometimes through silence, sometimes through a breeze brushing the trees, or the gentle rhythm of breath. Sometimes you simply say nothing at all. And even in that quiet, I am comforted, because your presence does not depend on volume. It depends on love. Father, help me carry stillness into the movement of this day. Let it not end when I rise from this quiet place. Let it follow me into conversations, into decisions, into interruptions. Let me move slowly enough to see beauty, to hear need, to notice the sacred in the ordinary. Let stillness shape how I respond, how I speak, how I carry myself. Let it be the soil from which kindness grows. Let stillness become a rhythm, not a rare event, a posture of heart, not just a moment in time. Teach me to return to it, like a favorite song I never tire of when chaos comes. Let me find the thread of stillness within it. When demands shout, let me remember the strength of quiet trust. When noise crowds in, let me retreat not in fear, but in faith to the sanctuary within. I confess how often I have filled silence because I feared what I might hear in it. But you are not waiting to condemn me in the quiet. You are waiting to comfort me, to hold me, to speak words I could not hear in the clamor. So let me not run from stillness. Let me run to it. Let me choose it, not to escape life, but to anchor myself within it. Even now, I feel the quiet rising like a tide, washing away the frantic thoughts, the restless questions, leaving behind only what matters, you. This breath, this moment, this love. I do not need to have all the answers. I only need to stay near the one who does. And so, I sit, I breathe, I listen, I become. Stillness is not a detour, it is the path. It is where you shape me without my striving, where you tend to my soul like a gardener tends to the roots. Gently, patiently, lovingly. Even when I feel nothing changing on the surface, stillness is doing its deep work. And when I emerge from this quiet, I will not be the same, not because I tried harder, but because I allowed myself to be held. So here I am, Father, no longer afraid of the silence, no longer running from the hush, but embracing it, trusting that you meet me in the quiet as surely as you meet me in the cry. Let today begin not with noise, but with knowing, not with urgency, but with understanding, not with anxiety, but with assurance, because stillness has made space for truth, and truth always leads me home. Father, before the world fully wakes and the rhythm of the day begins its familiar tempo, I come to you once more, this time not only to ask, to seek, or to release, but simply to rest in the culmination of all that has come before. The many mornings of pouring my soul before you, the rising and falling of longing and trust, the quiet lessons whispered in moments of surrender, they have shaped something in me that I can no longer unsee. And now, with this morning's hush wrapping gently around me, I realize something simple but profound. I am not who I was at the beginning of this journey. It began with a need in H, really for something more than routine, more than obligation, more than survival. I sought you through the fragile threads of hope, through the heavy clouds of fear, through the questions too vast for words. And you answered, not always with the solutions I expected, but with presence. Always presence, in every chapter, every breath, every turning page. You remained. You endured me. You loved me patiently through the wandering. You waited for me when I drifted, and you never ceased whispering truth over me, whether I was listening or not. Now, as I find myself at this final chapter, I do not sense an ending. I sense a beginning dressed in gentleness, a soft awakening. Like a field kissed by the first breath of spring, this is not the closing of a book, but the quiet moment when the ink dries and the heart knows the story continues in silence. Because every prayer has become a seed, and I believe they are already growing into something sacred, even in places I cannot yet see. You have taken my anxious mornings and softened them with peace. You have taken my rushed beginnings and slowed them with grace. You have turned my striving into stillness, my restlessness into rhythm, and my fear into faith. What began as desperate murmurs has become communion. What started as me speaking into the void became a conversation, and now a relationship carried not just by words, but by knowing. I have tasted stillness and found you in it. I have faced storms and found you there too. You were not only in the triumphs, but in the trembling, not just in the answers, but in the waiting. Father, I do not know what lies ahead beyond this moment, but I do know how I want to meet each dawn, not with dread or indifference, not with noise or numbness, but with attention, with awe, with the same open heart I have offered here, day after day, word after word. I want to rise into each morning, not asking for the path to be easy, but for it to be meaningful. I want to keep returning to this sacred pause, where I realign with truth before the world has a chance to misname me. Even now, as I sit in the quiet, I sense a deeper silence beneath the silence. Not emptiness, but fullness. Not void, but invitation. And I know that this, too, is you. You who do not demand thunderous gestures, but invite me into the intimacy of breath. You who measure not by performance, but by presence. You who are as near as my next inhale. You who are faithful even when I forget. I carry with me the memories of these mornings, how the sun would spill across the wall, just as my heart spilled across these words. How sometimes I began heavy and ended light. How you transformed even my most restless beginnings into grounded peace. And I wonder how many times I met you without even realizing it. How many times your grace surrounded me like air, unnoticed but essential. How many times you spoke in ways my ears were not yet trained to hear. Now I want to stay tender, not easily shaken, but easily moved. Not guarded, but grounded. Let this prayer life I have built not become a monument I visit, but a well I draw from, a rhythm I return to when noise rises, a compass when the fog rolls in. Let it stay alive. Let it breathe. Let it keep stretching my heart toward heaven even while my feet remain firmly rooted in earth. And for those who have traveled this path with me, who have listened, who have prayed their own silent prayers in the spaces between my words, I offer my thanks. Thank you for holding space with me in the stillness, for trusting that something sacred could happen in the ordinary, for believing that daily devotion could matter, even when no one else sees. Your faithfulness is a quiet flame that lights the way for others, and I honor that. To you, the one listening now, wherever you are in joy or sorrow, in certainty or in doubt, this is not goodbye. This is a gentle reminder that the sacred is never far. It is not locked in lofty places, but hidden in plain sight in your breath, your longing, your stillness. Keep seeking. Keep asking. Keep coming back to the quiet, because it is there that you will remember who you truly are. If any part of this journey has spoken to your heart, I invite you to share your own reflections below. Let your prayer join the tapestry of ours. Speak your hope, speak your speak your story, and let it be received without judgment. Only love. And if you have found something here that nourished you, that anchored you, that helped you start your day differently, even just once, I humbly ask that you consider subscribing to this channel. Share these prayers with someone who might need a quiet place to rest their soul. Let us keep the rhythm alive, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of those we love. Let us continue walking in faith, one morning at a time. Not because we are perfect, but because we are held. And as the day begins to stretch itself open, and the light of morning climbs gently across the horizon, I rise not with a final word, but with a quiet knowing. A breeze stirs the edge of the curtain. A golden line breaks across the sky. The world begins again, and so do I.